Hi everyone, Niamh here and welcome to my art journaling channel. Today we're going to be looking at my take on Inktober 2018, and it's a collaborative book done with Daisy as a main character. So this is done through JLB Creative, and you can find all these prompts and the cheat sheet, which I'm showing you here, on the Berkmates Creative outlet, I think, on Facebook. I'll leave the link below. Basically what James has done is create a cheat sheet of the main character Daisy and a whole heap of little prompts or a story for each day of October to illustrate. Now there's no right or wrong way to do this, but I'm choosing to do it all in ink because I've never used ink before and I've never done Inktober before, so I thought I'd really challenge myself. So I'm starting off this page. I've masked off the edge, and the prompt that I'm doing for this one is a cat burgled my big bat hat, and the idea I had in my head was to get some ink drips coming down the background to look like forest or trees. Now as you can see, it didn't really work, but this is what I'm really loving about working with ink, and it's something I wasn't expecting at all, is while you're working with it you can remove a lot of it. You could see how dark I got that originally, and I was able to remove quite a lot of the ink so I get that light background, so it looks like rain at the top. I'm finding that you need to use an awful lot of water with it, which is something that again I haven't really used before. I'm not proficient in watercolor and not proficient in ink at all. These are just things I've found as I'm going along. I love the fact you can blot it off, and you can see there that I'm starting to draw the Daisy character, and I got it really dark. So I'm going back in, I've blotted it off and going back and layering, and I really like the fact that you can blot it off and layer it and add some ink and remove it. It does stain the page slightly, but it is a lot more forgiving than I ever thought it could be. I've also found that James providing the cheat sheet has been awesome, and it's given me a lot more confidence in my illustrating skills. I would always say to you that I can't draw, and you know, that's why I've always done sort of abstract mixed media type stuff before, and I can see with this I'm actually developing some skills. I've got an awful long way to go, but it's certainly given me a little bit more confidence to actually have a go and illustrate. Now when I did this originally, I just decided I was just going to do the one page, and you'll see that later on. I've got the pages I've done so far, but as I've gone on I've noticed that I'm getting a little bit more confident each time I'm doing it. There's still a huge learning curve as I go along, but I'm okay with that. I don't mind if I mess it up, because after all, it's in my art journal. If I hate it, I can paint over it or tear it out, and that's how I'm approaching this. I've never been very confident with drawing figures to begin with. I'm terrified of drawing animals because I'm not very good at that either. So what I've been doing is, you can see I'm working on the right side of my page. This is a Jane Davenport the large watercolor journal, and what I decided to do was that I would do my images on the right hand side of the page, and then I'd have the left hand side of the page that I could test out ink strengths or try out characters, or that's my tryout page that I can work along with, and I found that really helpful, because one thing I've found as I'm doing this is it's really hard to know how strong the ink is in the palette. You can water it down a lot and you can blot it off, but it can sometimes give you a surprise. And I found on this page I was really struggling because I was using a lot of the straight black ink. I wasn't getting the tones correct, and from watching a lot of the Inktober videos that are around at the moment, that seems to be a fairly common struggle, so that's making me feel slightly better. I didn't really, when I first went into this, have an idea, apart from the fact I wanted to get those trees in the background, which is why I've started to do this. Now, you saw me use some stamp serif branches just to sort of get an outline of how to start off a branch, and then I've added in some of my own and drawn over it. I also have found, and for this page, I did a bit of a Google search on how to draw a hat and how to draw cats, and I printed those out and just had them sitting in front of me just to use as a bit of a reference, not for anything particular, but just to give me a bit of an idea and a bit more confidence with what I'm doing. Because I'm not confident with the drawing, I need to have something sitting there to go, oh yeah, that's how that works, so that's that shape. One of the things that I've really learnt from watching James as he does his work is breaking things down to their basic shapes, and I've found that helps me immensely. If you break it down to its basic shape, it makes it an awful lot easier in the long run. Instead of trying to draw the whole figure, you're just drawing a circle and a scallop shape and a V and, you know, an oval, rather than drawing a perfect figure the whole time. With these cats, you can see they're almost like calligraphy letters, just the way they're sort of shaped. And once they sort of broke them down to their basic shapes, it made it so much easier. And I really like the shape of the cats now. You can see, particularly on Daisy with her hat, how translucent the ink is, and that's something that I've come across and is what I was struggling a little bit with in this page. Because the tree branches are quite dark, everything's sort of showing through, so it's all about that layering up of colour. So you can see I go back and add more and add more. I did find on Daisy's face when I first did it, I added too much water and rubbed it off and actually peeled a little bit of paper, but it gave a bit of texture, so that was okay. But as I said, it is so much more forgiving than I actually thought it would or could be. The other thing that's given me a lot of confidence with doing this is knowing that when you're finished, you can go back in with a gel pen and a black pen and add detail. So basically all I'm doing is just blocking out the shapes, blocking out the basics. I don't need to worry about all the details at the moment because I can go back and add them in later. And that really helps make it look finished. So that's pretty much all the ink work done. And now I'm going in with a Posca paint pen to add the details. So stripes on her arms, the dots around her glasses. One of the characteristics that Daisy has are the big round glasses, freckles, scalloped hair, scallops and dots somewhere on her clothing, and that's pretty much it. There's, you know, she can be a child, she can be an adult, she can be anything, but it just depends on what you would like to draw. Having that freedom to be able to interpret her and draw her with what you feel comfortable has been really helpful for this project for me. So you'll notice with the other images that I've done later on, my Daisy is looking fairly similar in each iteration that I draw her. Probably looking a little bit more polished as I go on, but she's just looking that little bit the same each time. So as you can see now, I'm just sort of outlining and adding in some details, and this really finishes off the piece by going back and doing this. It sort of just makes it pop out, and I really like, I ended up putting some of the lines on the tree just to make it a little bit more ghostly, but also to hide that transparency issue that I was having where the branches were coming off and they were slightly darker. So by drawing over with the white pen, that sort of hides it, and they're just sort of random wood grainy patterns. There is no rhyme or reason really to how I was doing it, sort of highlighting some of the thinner branches with the white pen. You can use any white pen to do this. Gel pen would work really well with it. I just really like this Posca paint pen. It's one of the extra fine ones, and it works really, really well over the ink. It doesn't reactivate the ink, which is great. You could see me also during this process, as well as blotting off, I've been drying it as I go along, and I found that really helpful to see the true tones of the colours coming through. Now I'm going in with my Epic pen, which is a carbon ink, which is a water proof ink, so it won't smudge. So if I did have to go back in with ink again, it wouldn't smudge. I find it a lot easier using this for doing things like the eyelashes and stuff. I have been trying to do it with the paintbrush, and I found, particularly on this piece, it was so much easier doing with the Epic pen because it's got such a narrow nib to it. It worked really, really well. So once I've done this, I'm just adding in the final details, putting in some dots into a cape over the top, and the background was bugging me slightly. I really like the top where I've sort of got that granulation of the ink, but it was looking a bit flat, and I think I was disappointed because I knew I wanted more trees in the background, but I didn't know how to do that without messing everything up. I knew I probably should have done that in the background. So what I decided to do, and this is something I've seen James do in some of his videos, is splatter some ink in the background just to give a bit of a sort of like a rain effect in the background, sort of stormy night happening. So drying it off and revealing the final image, and I was really happy with how this piece came up. You can see I've just peeled off some of the paint, and I'm just going over the paint pen to hide some of the edges. So these are the close-ups of the Inktober pieces I've done so far. This one, as I said, was I got burgled by my cat. He stole my big bat hat. This one is a leaf looked at me weirdly in my garden hideaway, I think. And the final one is Mushroom Queen gave me dots, lots of beautiful spots. I really love this one as well. So I'm really excited to keep going with this process. I'm really excited to learn a lot more about using ink. And please let me know below if you're having a go at Inktober. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.